enslavers didn't want to do it because they said this could be dangerous to let these Negroes congregate for any reason. Yeah. Some of them knew just how dangerous it was. The others said, well, let the darkies go on and sing and stuff. It'll keep them happier when they're working and they're playing, because they can't work unless they sing. They fall out about halfway through the day if they ain't got no singing with them. If they sing, they can make it from sun up to sundown. Can't see in the morning, can't see at night. But they'll only make it to noon if we don't let them sing. So let them do some singing. So that's all we needed, right? So we got together and start singing the songs. We would sing songs like "My Lord, What a Morning." Oh yeah. When the stars began to fall. Yeah. A white man listening to them darkies sure sound good. They got perfect harmony. And they singing about the stars in the sky. We in there talking about the people that's in control are gonna fall. My Lord, what a morning, but we strike them. That's what we were talking about. Then they would sing steal away to Jesus. Say, oh, we got them now. They really into Jesus. Well, none of the main ships to bring us over here was the good ship Jesus. So Jesus represented a way back home. It represented a ship, so they figured we singing about their idea of Jesus. We singing about a ship to take us home. But because we sang it in a language that they could accept, we knew what we were singing. We was on that plantation. This is how the black church started off, and they got away from that somewhere along the way. Some have stayed, but most have gotten away. That's how it started off there on the plantation. And come by here, my Lord, come by here. That was Mother Harriet Tubman's piece. And when they sang that song, she knew where to stop off, what station in the railroad, Underground Railroad, stop off, pick off people, and keep on going, take them on up north to what they considered to be freedom back then. Well, it sure was a lot better than what was happening down there. It was a measure of freedom that we had. So those kind of songs. Then, the plantation preachers, probably the greatest preachers we have ever had. I don't care who we hear, we have not heard preaching in our lifetime like the preaching that James Weldon Johnson tried to capture in his book, God's Trombone, like the preaching of them preachers on that plantation. I mean, I don't think there's anybody, and we've had some fine preachers in our day that could match them. And they could go from plantation to plantation, and in the sermon, it gave instructions to where to meet and gather for the slave revolts and for the slave escape. See, there was a lot more slave revolts than what we know about. Right. They would not let you know that. They wouldn't let it go from plantation to plantation because they didn't want the word to get around. But the Nat Turner revolt was so dynamic you couldn't escape it. The Gabriel Prosser and Nimrod Vesey was so dynamic you couldn't get around that, so that became public knowledge. But there were far more revolts than they talk about. I am a descendant of John Campbell, who was my great-great-grandfather who led a slave revolt in West Petersburg, Virginia. That's how I got to be like I am today. So they inherit that. But that's a revolt that most people don't know. Then my family knew about it, and they tell the story to every generation. And I remember being a little boy sitting down hearing the story of John Campbell that they told behind closed doors. And every time we had a family gathering, they would sit around and talk about this. And I found, as I talked to many people as I traveled the country, there was a lot more slave revolts than we know about. And it was because of them preachers preaching on the plantations and them songs they were singing. Also, they used to pray in a way. When they would pray out loud, see, you weren't allowed to go from this plantation to the other plantation unless you had a pass from master. Oh, all right. You had to be. Well, we'll get one song in anyhow. Go ahead. You had to stay confined where he told you had to stay confined. Right. You couldn't get on another plantation and change ideas with your brothers and sisters there. Right. You couldn't do that. Right. So what we would do is we'd go out in the woods and pray. And while we were praying in our prayers out loud, we would get the message to the brothers and sisters. Now, during the Gabriel Prosser rebellion, that took part, it was the Denmark Vesey rebellion. I'm sorry, the Vesey rebellion was in South Carolina, right? When they found out, when some house Negroes told them what was happening, what our whole communication system was, they stopped them from having the preacher go around by himself. He had to have a white man always present.
Right.
And the white man read the text. Now, the preacher couldn't choose the text. And that's why you see in a lot of churches today, they still do that. Somebody will read the text, and the preacher will quote what they say. That came from the fact that the white man had to read the text and had to say, and it was text like, slaves obey your masters and all that kind of stuff. That's all they could do. So that was cut off. When they found out about the singing, they stopped, they put a ban on the songs. They put a ban on the praying out loud. Only one thing, they would have had to kill too much of what they considered to be their property, because there was no way you could stop a black person from praying in the first place, and secondly, you couldn't stop them from praying out loud. They had to pray out loud. And so what they did, they said, they passed a law, said, since we can't stop them from praying out loud, they got to put a bucket over their head when they pray. And that's why when you see sketches and etchings of the black church on the plantation, you'll see a bucket sitting there by the altar. Sitting right there by the mourner's bench is a bucket. Because you cannot stop us from shouting and singing. When we feel the goodness of the Lord and our ancestors and us, we're going to shout. You cannot stop that in black people. And so they had to put that bucket over their head. So when they couldn't, you had a preacher, they couldn't sing the songs, and they couldn't pray. And that's where that song came from, way down yonder by myself. And I couldn't hear nobody pray. See, that's what that song meant. I couldn't hear nobody pray. Because they were used to hearing each other pray and getting the message back and forth. That's a precious song. That's right. Way down yonder by myself. I couldn't hear nobody pray. Then somebody said, well, what are we going to do? The preacher can't carry the message. We can't sing the song. We can't pray out loud in the fields anymore. What we're going to do? Say, they're out in the field picking the cotton. Picking the cotton, and they're trying to figure out what to do. And the Spirit of the Lord fell on somebody, and they said, oh yeah, my Lord, yes. Somebody else picked it up. They made a code out of the moan and passed it from plantation to plantation. That's why when Art Blakey did that piece, moaning, dun, 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 dun. Now don't say I'm being sacrilegious in the church, because that's a religious piece. Dun, 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 moaning. That's why that moan is so important to black people today. Whether we know why it's important, that's why it is. So I just want to give you a little background on it. We're going to sing one song, and then we're going to turn it over to Dr. Jack Felder. We're going to start out with the song they used to sing in the words on the plantation. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on Jesus. But we're going to sing it in the words we knew they really meant. I'm going to sing it, and we're going to sing woke up this morning with my mind stayed on liberation. All right?
That's all right. That's right.
Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on liberation. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on liberation. Well, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on liberation. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Wherever I go, I got my mind stayed on liberation. Well, wherever I go, I got my mind stayed on liberation. Wherever I go, I got my mind. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Whatever I do, I got my mind, Well, whatever I do, I got my mind.
We give honor to the Creator, revealed to all and known by many names. Give honor to our ancestors, and honor and praise particularly to our elders, those in our midst, those in our families. And I want to give honor and praise and mention to all those who paid the supreme price for our freedom as a people, as Jesus has said. Greater love has no man than he lay down his life for a friend. And that's the supreme sacrifice. Even people that you may not agree with on one point or another, if they stand up and give their life for you, I mean, there's no argument there. If their commitment was in question at any point, once they give up the supreme sacrifice, there's no question to the level of their commitment. So I say there are those who are not in agreement. I wasn't in agreement with Dr. King's nonviolent method. However, I love Dr. King, and I never questioned his love for us and his level of commitment. And if I had a question about his level of commitment, I didn't have any after his death. Especially how I knew he could have avoided his death had he chosen his life over his purpose. Malcolm, who I had far more in agreement with. In fact, I don't know anything I disagree with Malcolm about except his experience in Mecca, and he didn't have a chance to sort that through before they took him away from him. And I certainly, if I had any doubts about his commitment, I had none after that, because he was offered asylum in other countries. He could have gotten out of here and saved his life, but he chose to stay here and put it on the line for us. So now, whether you're confused about what Malcolm said or did or whatever, you cannot deny, and you should always uphold him before your children as a hero, because the man willfully gave up his life trying to complete or work for the liberation of his people. So I can't mention all those folk like that. So the Sister Fannie Lou Hamer, although she was beat to within an inch of her life, and went the rest of her life with pain and scars that followed her to the grave, because her commitment was to us first rather than to herself. That is something wonderful to be proud of and to praise and to celebrate. And so in the name of her and Brother Malcolm and Dr. King and all of them, and the Black Panthers who had died and fighting for us, all those people, I would say in the words of the last poets, to sum it up, blessed are those who struggle. Oppression is worse than the grave. It is better to live and die for a noble cause than to live and die a slave. Let us always, and whenever I speak, it is only by their auspices that we have the power to speak. Because if they had not stood up, we would not be able to stand up. If they had not paved the way, we would not be able to stand up. I want to give thanks to Reverend Mother Felder Lot, is it? All right. Who is my mother too.
That's all right.
I have Jack is my brother in the spirit, and this is my mother. And I want to give thanks to her for opening the doors of the church and inviting us in and letting us come in and fellowship and worship and share with you here today. And I see the time is running out, and I see you're getting tired, so I won't wait much longer. I want to say this to you. This is my last presentation on this trip here. We've been here for 5 days. We've been making presentations, promoting the books and tapes, and I've had to mention more often than I care to mention, because I'm kind of uncomfortable at fundraising and stuff like that. It's just not me. However, it's necessary. And I know if we don't sell our books, if it was up to me, I just give them away. That's why my family don't let me handle business anymore. Because I used to give stuff away and they would end up suffering. So they just took this and don't let Daddy handle none of that. Mama, you handle it because you take care of it. Daddy just got too many brothers and sisters. One of the things we've been trying to do, I'm trying to raise money so I can continue to finish the book I'm working on now, The Awesome Power of the African-Centered Mind, which has something in it for everybody. Black people who are really into the Bible, and I find that we really are. You're going to find a lot of scriptures in there dealing with, because a lot of folks equate being a Christian or being a follower of any particular faith with poverty, that you're serving God as long as you're in poverty. Now, the only people on earth I know who do that are our people, or oppressed people. White people don't think that way. They can have all the wealth of the earth and still be good Christians or whatever they profess to be, or good Jews or whatever they profess to be. We're the only people that think in order to serve our God, we have to be poor. And then we'll stand up and profess that we're serving a God that can meet our every need and owns everything in the world.
Now, what father do you know? And Jesus said that so beautifully. If his son come to him, he's hungry, he give him a stone instead of a loaf of bread. So the Creator is our Father. We're direct descendants of the Creator. We're going to be dealing with that a little bit as I go on. How and why in the world do you think then we're not supposed to get the fruit of the land and the wealth of this land? We're not supposed to have some of it, especially a land that we've labored so hard in.
Amen.
Some of the folk involved in the Black Liberation Movement think that we are supposed to remain impoverished or else we'll become corrupt if we get prosperous. Prosperity is not supposed to corrupt you if you're spiritually attuned. And we're not supposed to be struggling along here with the thoughts and ideas we have. I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm not being arrogant. The thoughts and ideas that African thinkers have could liberate not only this race, but the whole entire world.
Absolutely. Yes.
It could liberate the whole world.
Absolutely.
Now, the only reason why the whole world hasn't heard about it and isn't aware of it is because we do not have the resources to make it. And Lord knows we try.
Yes.
We go everywhere, anywhere, street corner, church, anywhere we can go to share the message. So the only way it can be carried on is through the support of the people who we serve. And so it is through the purchasing of our books and tapes, and I have to keep doing these black nationalist commercials wherever I go. Fourth Dynasty Publishing Company, our family business there, publishes my works, and we're planning to publish other people's works. We're trying to work up to that. Wish we were in a position to publish Dr. Clark and other people. That's what we're trying to get to, that point there. So they shouldn't have to be worried about our elder scholars who have been doing this for so long. After they finish the work now, how are they going to raise the money to get it out? And they do. And some of these folk out there that's supposed to be in the African-centered book business, in fact, very few of them, and I'm not going to mention names. Only one name I'm going to mention, and that's the man I trust the most in the business, who has proven to be the most honorable, and that's Deacon David Reeves of D&J Books. But some of them take advantage of the scholars and get more money out of the project than they know they should be getting, and leave the scholar with, Sister Lori know what I'm talking about, leave the scholar with less than they should be getting. It was the scholar who came up with the idea and the concept. I know, because we haven't recovered from being beat out of some money we were supposed to get long ago. We're still struggling around that, pawn everything in the house to keep things going, hoping when I got up here we'd be able to sell enough books and tapes to keep things going. And that should not be. I'm not complaining or crying. I'm just saying these things have to be corrected. And we must demand, and when we hear about these injustices, we must address them at that time. All right. And keep it in the race, because we don't want to go to white folks to settle our problems for us. We settle, we can settle. The tape, the historical reality, Christopher Columbus did not discover America, is chock full of documentation. Every one of you should have this and let your children listen to this. And when your children listen to this tape, my daughter took it to school. And the teacher tried to take it out. She said, well, it's too heavy, it's too deep, it's too... She said, no, my daddy said that all black children can pick up on this, all children if they listen to it. So she had to play the tape. My daughter wasn't going to let her get away with it. She's 10 years old. She wasn't going to let her get away with it. She had to play that tape. It is well documented. It's the book. It's excerpts from the book I was working on of the same title. But I have to put the book aside because when I looked at the book and how big it's becoming, it's going to cost us so much money to produce it. I'm going to get in the same hole I got in with this book. It cost me over $20,000 to produce this. I haven't got out that hole yet. So I realized I'm going to have to do like Jack Felder here. Jack Felder taught me what to do. I can't write as concisely as he can. He's a journalist. My books will be a little larger than his, but I've got to produce things under $10, particularly considering the economy today. Right. But even though we produced this one, I thought it was going to be 150 pages. I kept on writing Minister Brown. I couldn't stop writing. I said, Lord, would you let me stop this project? I kept writing. I went out in the woods and screamed and hollered, please let me go on this one. And I couldn't stop writing. I didn't put all in there I have. I wish you could see my files, but I had to stop it somewhere. I had to borrow money from every which way direction, couldn't pay people back and call me a rip-off artist and all that. I'm going to pay you as soon as I can. I had to go through all that to produce this. This is the best book I have ever written. But it's not selling as the best book I've ever written. And I said, it must be because they're not aware of it up here. And I realized that when we first published it and released it in July 15th last year, we went south
and we went Midwest, and that's where we did the promotion on it. Now, the book on the holidays, everybody know about that. Jack Felder's responsible for that a lot. The one on God, the Bible, and the Black Man's Destiny is moving. They can't keep them in the stores. But this one is just kind of sitting there, and it shouldn't be. It is the best. What you have heard many talk about, we have shown directly how the story that we'll be talking about in a minute of Genesis in the Bible, of the origin of humanity, you've heard people say that it came from African text. And some have in their writings, our scholars have shown some of it. I went directly and showed how it came from, how the Bible story was taken from all these other different stories that Africans had established all over the globe, India, Persia, Arabia, and all those other places. And that there's a lot in this book, I believe, that in reading, and I've had people tell me that it will help to enhance the quality of your life, because these ancient concepts, even though they're kind of difficult, we're so far removed from them, and they're very ancient, if you keep working with them, there's something inside of you that makes contact with them, and it brings about a change in your whole scope of life. And that's what we need, a change of scope. Yeah. The reason why we are confined to these ghettos and slums is because we have been made to think on that level. Once we expand our scope, when our scope was large, we weren't on that level. We could build those gargantuan statuary pyramids, and not only in Africa, anywhere you go in the world, you're going to see these great things built by black people. I mean, huge. Huge. That's right. They would cut out sides of mountains. They would cut out stuff that was 80 tons. They built statues 80 tons. I mean, I'm trying to imagine 80 tons. How these black people haul out of one piece. They haul 80 tons, 500 miles from somewhere, 600 miles from somewhere else. Why could they do that? The Kemetans were little people. Yeah. By statue, human statue, however, everything they built was huge. Right. Why? State of mind. Yeah. They may have been small in physical stature, but their scope of thinking was vast. Their scope of thinking was godlike, because the Creator thinks on a vast cosmic plane. And it is not serving the Creator to confine our thoughts to just these conditions we live under. And we'll never be able to change these conditions until we learn to think beyond that. And that's one of the things this book is designed to help you do. Let me get on now. Y'all all right? Can you give me a few minutes here? Yes. All right. I know you got to get up and go on that plantation tomorrow and everything, and got to travel through the streets and all that to get there and get you a little rest in, and get a little time there to relax and everything before you have to go meet them again. I don't use that term, the man, because if he's the man, what are we? I'm the man. All right. That's the boy. Yeah. You know, let the child control everything for a while. All right, brothers and sisters, I'm going to go into the scriptures here a minute in Ezekiel, the 1st chapter, 26 to the 28th verses. We read a scripture that is not commonly known to most people. Not only is it not commonly known, it's not generally understood what it means, what it's designed to be. And that is because the English, in translating from the ancient tongues, first the Greeks were the first to translate from the ancient African tongues and the Hebrew tongues and all that, Hebrew just being another one of the family of African languages, did not have enough words in their language to have complete translations. Because here was a younger language trying to translate from a much older language. So there's a lot of confusion in their translation. However, if you know your history, if you have the keys to unlock the mystery, you can go in there and put it back in its proper language. And we read, and above the firmament that was over their heads was the likeness of a throne, as the appearance of a sapphire stone. I want you to get this picture, and I want you to keep these symbols in mind. And upon the likeness of the throne was the likeness as the appearance of a man above upon it. And as I saw as the color of amber, keep this in mind now, as the appearance of fire round about it, from the appearance of his loins even upward, and from the appearance of his loins even downward. I saw, as it were, the appearance of fire, and it had brightness round about. As the appearance of the bow that is in the cloud in the day of rain, so was the appearance of the brightness round about. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. And when I saw it, I fell upon my face, and I heard a voice. Now, we need to deal with this.
Yes.
We're going to do African-centered exegesis. In the seminary, we like to do an exegesis on the text.
Very good. Yeah.
We're going to do an African-centered exegesis on the text today. Now, Mother Reverend Felder, you know that prophecy, when the prophets write, they use symbolic language. And the reason why they had to use symbolic language many times is because when they were writing in a condition whereby they were being oppressed by another in a foreign land, they couldn't tell the story too plain, or it could get them hurt, get them harmed, get them killed, and they could never get their message to people. Just like we were talking about earlier, we were singing those songs that were code songs on the plantation. And they had to sing them in that language. When they wanted to say freedom, they had to say Jesus in order to keep the master from messing with them. But we know what they meant, and they know what they meant, and how do we know? By the results of what those songs caused. Because as a result of singing those songs, a lot of people got off those plantations. Because they were used as a code language for the folk who were coming to liberate them to stop by there and get them. Same thing was happening here. Ezekiel was in Babylon. He was under the oppression of the Babylonians. One group of black people were oppressing another group of black people. By the time that they came to Ezekiel, it was predominantly Eurasians there, because they had taken the land from the original black people there. I talk about that and explain it and show the transition which took place in this book, African Genesis. The original Babylonians were very black people, kinky-haired people, and they were called Akkadian Babylonians. The Babylonians who invaded the Semitic type, the Eurasian-looking one, the mixed-up ones, the wannabes who came, they were called the Kassite Babylonians. They invaded about 1200 before the Common Era. Now I better stop and explain what I mean before the Common Era. Not everybody in the world is a Christian. Not everybody in the world has to be a Christian to know God. Not everybody has to be that. There are fine Muslim people who are closer to the Creator than many Christian people are. There are Buddhists who are much closer than both of them are, who meditate and get in tune every day. So we can't be arrogant and think what our system of belief is the only way that the Creator talks. But then that means you got control over God. Yes. If you got the only way to it, you're going to tell him you only got one way that people can come to you. And here the Creator has put people all over the planet with different cultural experiences. And our religion comes out of cultural experience. Yes. That's what it does. All people behold and conceive of a Creator in terms of their cultural experience. Yes. Only we conceive of it in terms of somebody else's cultural experience since we've been enslaved here. Right. We conceive of a Eurocentric cultural experience, and we kind of look at some white God or some white Jesus somewhere. That's their cultural experience. It's not our cultural experience. That's right. And think it's sinful for us to view the Creator or see the Creator in our own cultural experience. That's the truth. And in our own image. Now that's the truth. Head of the Baptists, one time I think it was Johnson, Reverend Johnson was the name, that the one that the king couldn't get along with, was always fighting the king all the time. Right. He stood up in his pulpit before, at the Baptist conference with thousands and thousands of black people in front of him and said it was a sin before God to wear your hair natural in the afro.
Now, who gave you the afro in the first place? How did you get it? You understand what I'm saying? So you're going to tell a person it's a sin before God for them to be in the natural state that God called them here in. Then you are accusing the Creator of doing wrong, of making a mistake, by making the people black. All right. Y'all with me? All right. Now, Ezekiel had to use some code language there, and as I talked about, one group of Africans who were being controlled by Eurasians who were oppressing another group, which was the Hebrews, which I will discuss with you in a minute. If not, you can read my books. Dr. Ben has stated it, Dr. Clark, all of it. It should be clear to anybody by now that has heard anything that these people were not Carlton Heston and Elizabeth Taylor looking people. They were people that looked like us. Yes. And I'm going to deal with that in a minute. All right. Now, the title of our message today is, You Shall Know the Truth, and the Truth Shall Set You Free. You know, people say it a lot. Assuming, listen to me now. But see, first of all, let me clear something up. The Lord put it on my mind to clear this up. I'm not trying to get a following. I'm not trying to steal anybody's thunder. I'm not coming to beat up on any other black people. I only got energy to beat up on my natural enemy. Now, if y'all don't agree with that, you don't have to. It's my natural enemy. I got something to know it's my natural enemy. I got to look out for him. I don't go out of my way to do nothing to him, but I know to protect myself against him. And I know to help us get our minds. So I'm not here to attack anyone's system of belief. I'm simply asking that we get to the point where we do not allow a ceiling to be placed on our mental development consciousness and use our belief in the and blame it on God. And persist as an excuse for doing it. Now that has to stop. As Brother Malcolm says, when your religion doesn't motivate you to change your condition from what it is to what it ought to be, you need to rethink your condition. You need to rethink your condition. And you're blaming God, say the Lord wants me in this condition. And you know good and well that the Creator doesn't want you in this condition. The word truth. And I've got to stop and define this word truth because folks think that what they know, their religious belief or their concept of it is the truth. And there is none other. That's all the truth there is. The word truth, as used in the New Testament, from the text, I believe it's in the book of John, and the mother, I forget sometime exactly where it is. I got to poke over somewhere, and I'm quoting that text for over 30 years. But Jesus is reported to have said, You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. It comes from I remember translating it when I was in the seminary, from the Koine Greek or the common Greek language that the New Testament Gospels were translated into, written in. They were written in the Koine Greek at that time, because Greek was the language of scholarship in those days. And I remember translating the word from aletheia, which means according to the facts. It had nothing to do with a system of belief. It means according to the facts. Can you prove it? That's what truth is. Truth is based on something concrete that you can substantiate with something tangible or some natural law. It has nothing to do with belief. Belief is altogether something different. You shouldn't even argue belief. You shouldn't debate belief. You shouldn't discuss belief. Belief is personal. You cannot prove or disprove a person's belief. I don't mess with that because I don't know what a person needs to believe to keep them going. However, I do have to make us aware of the historical realities. You can keep your belief and still deal with historical reality. You can always make that motivation. So don't be frightened when we come to you with these facts and say they're trying to take away Dale Shields knows better, and he doesn't mean that. Because he reads everything. He buys all books. He left there yesterday with 2 shopping bags full of books. He's a very good brother, very wise man, but he's always kidding us about the fact we're trying to take his Jesus. And we always tell him, we say, Dale, we're not trying to take your Jesus. We're trying to make it real for you. Yeah. That's what we're trying to do. So that's the thing.
Let me finish talking about this truth for a minute, and then I'm going to get into the text, and then we'll be ready to close. There should never be, as I just mentioned, a ceiling on the truth. There can't be a ceiling on the truth because truth is ever unfolding.
Yes. Yes.
Truth is ever revealing.
Yeah.
Now, if you got the only truth, you done stopped truth.
Mm-hmm.
You done turned off the faucet. You ain't gonna get no more water. You done got all the water you need. You done got all the water there is for you. When you turn it off, just right what you understand and what you believe, and there ain't no more. You done cut the faucet off.
Mm-hmm.
You have to leave the faucet on for the water to run. And that's how truth is. Truth continues to flow throughout the cosmos, ever revealing. Truth becomes brighter, a light that becomes brighter and brighter and brighter to you in your life. And you're born in the world, you figure that's all the truth you know, sucking on the thumb and sucking on the nipple. But as you grow up, you learn some other truths. You learn about cornbread and collard greens and truth like that.
Yeah.
I remember when I was coming up as a boy, we didn't, the apartments we had to live in when I was very young, we didn't have a bathtub. And therefore, every Saturday, my mother used to have to take and put us in front of the oven. Some of y'all may not know what I'm talking about. Had to take us and put us in front of the oven. In a tub, 10 tubs. I was always scared of and I ended up flying in this oven. My mother said, I know what I'm doing, boy. I've looked after you all this time. I'm going to continue with that. And I had to sit in that tub. When we moved in the first apartment, that we had a bathtub that you could sit and stretch out in. What do you think I did? Now I'd have been a fool to go back and sit in this tin tub in front of a stove. I mean, it brings fond memories, but that's all I want it to be, is a memory. Then when I got to where they had a shower, well, man, you couldn't get me out of there. So what I'm saying to you, brothers, that's unfolding truth. The truth was the bathing. You got to wash yourself to be healthy. Cleanliness is a part of godliness. However, my concept of that truth was limited to a tin tub. But then my concept of that truth grew, expanded when I got to a bathtub. And then when I got to a shower, I got to roll. Show enough truth there. So my brothers and sisters,
that's all right.
Never put a ceiling on truth. If I don't get no other idea across, I'm going to get that one. Never put a ceiling on truth. Many Orthodox religions try to put a ceiling on truth.
Yes.
I mean, they prohibit you to think beyond the perimeters of their particular system of belief. Now, if any religion does that to you, it is not serving you. It is programming you to serve it. That's the church is supposed to serve the people. Am I right, Mother? You correct me if I'm wrong. Not the people serve it. That's what it's supposed to do. All right, now, y'all still, I don't have much long now. Be patient.
Well, hey, you're doing a good job.
You should know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. It's a view, an African-centered view of the Bible and religion that we're going to be talking about here today. Now, let me get into this text. We know at the very beginning of the scriptures, this particular scripture, in the book of Genesis, it starts out by saying, in the beginning, God. First of all, I mentioned this before, but I got to mention it again. Y'all gonna get mad and throw me out the door now. I'm gonna be dealing with some rough stuff here. But I'm dealing in love, so now y'all got to continue to love me. You might disagree with me, but you got to love me now. Because I'm your blood, I'm your brother. Come on. I'm saying this because I have been physically ejected from churches. So I got no. They throw Dr. Ben off campus, they throw me out of church. The word God should not be used in reference to the divine intelligence, the creator in the universe. Why? Because it is the word dog spelled backwards.
Right. Yes. That's right.
And it was put in the King James Version of the Bible. The King James Version was not translated until the year 1611. It cannot therefore be the unadulterated word of God.
Go ahead. That's right.
Even the book itself tells you that God spoke to Moses, and spoke to Ezekiel, and spoke to the prophets, and spoke to all them people. That was a long time before 1611. So this cannot be the unadulterated word of God. It's a translation of the ancient scriptures of the people. So don't get upset. You're trying to take my Bible from me. This one is not yours.
Go ahead. That's right. Tell him.
But since it's the one we all have, I'm trying to give it back to you. I'm trying to make it yours. You all right with me now?
Very good.
All right. I'm trying my best to keep you from getting mad with me. All right. In the beginning, the ancients had the right terminology. The ancient Africans in Kemet, they referred to the creative force, the divine intelligence in the universe as the one.
Okay.
The one is everywhere. In every blade of grass, in every leaf on every tree, in every drop of rainwater, everywhere, in every particle of atom in the air that you breathe, the one is there.
Yes.
For all things in nature have an intelligence and are part of a central, universal, divine intelligence. Therefore, because of their concept and understanding of the creative force better than any people have ever had since that time, they would not build a house to what they call the one, because they say you couldn't contain the one in a house, in a single place. Right, so that's why we, now I can't go into the rest of it. I did a message the other day, the brother, I had taped some stuff on here, as to why, some more detail on this word, God spelled backwards. I'm just going to have time to do this text, it looks like. But let me do this text. It says, now in the beginning was the creator. We're going to put it that way, the one. We're going to translate the text into African Synod language. We got to do a retranslation here. All right. In the beginning was the one. Now, in the Bible, it describes what the one looked like when the prophets beheld a vision of the one. Now, being very careful here, because y'all gonna say, well, God ain't got no color. God is a spirit. That is true. The divine intelligence in the universe, the creator, is a spiritual force. However, when it reveals itself to human beings in a way that they can comprehend, are you with me now?
Go ahead.
It was always as a female first and then as a male. That's going to shock some of you, isn't it?
All right.
First revealed as the mother force, then as the father force. But I don't have time to get into that tonight. You get my books and you read them. All right? And we document it now. The oldest concept of religion on earth was the religion which respected the mother force as the original force. And that's why Africans today pray Mother, Father, God. Because you can't have no father without a mother. You just can't. Not even on that level. Everything has to have exchange between masculine and feminine energy, but that's another story to get into. Read African Woman, the original guardian angel. And see, but sometimes black women kind of scared of this book. They're afraid to come face to face with who they really are. You're the divine queen mother of the universe. And you done been beat down so long and made to think that you're the ugliest thing on the planet and that you gotta look as much like white women to look like somebody. You done been beat down so much it's hard for you to confront the fact that you were the beauty queen on earth for over 200,000 years. I document that here. The oldest statues created by human beings go back between 30 and 40,000 years ago, and they are all of black women.
Yes.
The first image that anybody tried to duplicate was of a black woman. Why? Because in those days, she was revered above all creatures on earth. Now, you read African Woman, the original guardian angel. You deal with that. Okay, y'all still with me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to get to it now. Trying to get to it. Let me get into the text. says, and above the firmament that was over their head was the likeness of the throne as the appearance of a what? Sapphire stone. Now, if we're talking somebody, we're talking prophetic language here. In prophetic language, they use symbols to illustrate principles. What is the sapphire throne? The sapphire throne represents, and I have it in this book, I have it in this book, and I have it in this book. See, I was going to go into the books with you tonight, but time won't permit us. You'll have to get the books. It's documented. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I ain't going to tell you nothing I can't back up. Based on over 30 years of research. So I didn't just come out there with just, I'm going to come out here and tell these people something that are amazing. You know, no, as amazing as it may sound, the concept has been around for many, many years. It ain't nothing new about it at all. The sapphire throne represents the lap of the divine mother, because all the thrones in the ancient world represented the lap of the mother. The oldest thrones we know anything about, listen now, were first built where? On the African continent, we know. The first kings there ever were in the world were first on the African continent, because they were the first people to have kingdoms and civilizations to rule over, because the longest lived and the oldest people on earth are black people. You cannot get around that. Correct. There's no way that you can get around it. All the facts are pointing to that reality. That the original people came out of Africa, that the Garden of Eden was originally in Africa by the Nile River. And if you read the book of Genesis carefully, it will tell you that the river Gihon is the Nile River. But you got to know the Hebrew to know that. That's what we're here for, to help translate it right for you. All right? Now, the oldest throne was in Africa by the Nile River in the ancient kingdoms and empires of what was called Kush. The word Kush means people kissed of the sun, or sun-kissed people. Not the orange, we the sun. When the Greeks came along, they could not pronounce the K sound. So they came up with a word, Ethiopia. Meant bird face to them. But the name of the people were Cushites, people kissed of the sun. Out of them came a people called Kemetans, the people of the soil, from which we get the word today, what? Chemistry. The word itself is a description of the people. Land, people from the black soil, from the land of the blacks, is what Kemet means and what the word chemistry means. Because the only soil on earth that contains all of the chemical elements that make up the human body is the black soil. Not the red soil, not the sandy soil. Only the black soil has all those chemical elements. Now you ask Dr. Felder, who's a chemist, and he can tell you that. And I've seen it when I was in a seminary under the microscope. And we've analyzed the soils, the various soils, and that's all you can come up with. Now, they created the concept of the throne and the king, and in their literature, they state very clearly, and I do document it in African Woman, the original guardian angel, that it was the black woman who created the system of governance, who created laws to discipline the community, because the man was perfectly happy running wild in the woods, chasing after lions or elephant, whatever he was chasing after. He was happy-go-lucky. It was the woman who made him domestic. It was the woman who planted the crops so that he stopped running and chasing food and could sit down and eat some food. He could take time to do something else behind chase food and fill his stomach. It was the woman who set that situation up. Therefore, she put him on the throne because she says, I really don't have time to deal with anything as mundane as running a government or a nation. I got to take care of the arts and sciences of civilization. Since the Creator gave you the natural brawn and the power to defend us against any enemy or any threat, I'll put you on the throne, but you sit there by my power, because the throne is the lap of the mother, which the Greeks call Isis and the ancients call Aset. And you will see pictures of it. I got pictures in the book. When the Pharaoh sat on the throne, he was said that Aset was receiving her baby child on her lap. The mother's lap was the throne of power, because it was from the mother's lap that what? We came into this world, every last one of us.
That's correct.
That's how you came in. So that's the seat of power that gives you life, energy, and strength. And black woman, if you know who you were, you would never let nobody mistreat you. Nobody would ever be able to get away with mistreating you once you know who you are. And black men, knowing who they are, would never mistreat you. Because every time you mistreat a black woman, you mistreat your mama. True. She represents your mama. Every black woman on earth represents your mama. But I can't get into that now. Let me go on. I got to cut this one down. So that's the throne we're talking about. You're talking about the black woman. Now, even in our enslavement here, we identify with many of these ancient concepts because they were still in our subconscious and spiritually connected with us, but we didn't understand where they came from. And we began to call black women who put their hands on their hip and shake that finger and wag that head that no other woman can do, and cut you with that tongue like no other woman can do. We call it sapphire.
That's right.
It became a negative connotation instead of a connotation of positive power, she once said. But sapphire is a what? A precious stone. So something of value. So even though we called you sapphire for acting that way, we used a term of affection to refer to you in that way. Because the sapphire is precious. You with me?
Yes. All right.
So this man that he says he sees in this text is Ezekiel, the 1st chapter, 26 to 28th verse. He said, he saw on the likeness of the throne was the likeness of the appearance of a man sitting on it. All right? We got this beautiful blue throne. Sapphire was a color of lapis lazuli of ancient Kemet. All right? And I saw it as the color of amber. This man sitting on this blue throne had the color of amber. What is amber? A golden brown color. Yep. Golden brown. Not white, not yellow, not red. Golden brown. I mean brown, like this brother sitting back there in the maroon, that kind of brown. That's what we're talking about, mahogany brown. You understand? Now this is what Ezekiel said he saw on the throne. You can read the text and follow me up. And he said that he saw also fire around it in the rainbow. And after describing all this, here's the key in the text. What was Ezekiel looking at in his vision that he's looking at in the sky now? He's having a vision, the prophet Ezekiel, down by the river Shabbat in ancient Babylon. His people are being oppressed by another people. And he's called on God for liberation and to show him something. And the first thing he sees in the first chapter of the book that he's writing about his experience and his prophecy to his people is he gets a vision of a throne in the air, sapphire throne. Sitting on it is the image of a man that is golden brown in color. Who is this man sitting on the throne? What does this image represent? Knowing that prophetic language is what? Symbolic language. Folks say the book of Revelation can't be understood. The very book itself, the title of it, Revelation, means reveal. If you don't understand it, it means you don't know how to interpret the symbols. And if you know your history, you can interpret the symbols. One day when I come back, I deal with 666. Like, all right. Some heavy symbols in there for black people. Let me get back to it. Here's what Ezekiel tells you he saw. Not what Ishakamusa tells you Ezekiel saw. All I'm doing is translating the text for you in the context of the historical experience and from the ancient Hebrew that it was originally written in the Aramaic, telling you what the words mean that he described. That's all I'm doing. It's telling you what they mean. But he now, in his own language, is going to tell you what he saw. What it meant to him, what he saw. And this is what he says in the 28th verse. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. And that's what Ezekiel said. Y'all gonna run around here and tell me we gotta stop talking about black this and black this. God don't know no color, God ain't got no color. And here, Ezekiel said when he saw a vision
of the glory of the Lord, sitting on a sapphire throne, he saw a golden brown man sitting there. It's right in the text. Don't tell me God ain't got no color. True, the Spirit doesn't have a color.